Hi everyone, I'm Abby. The preferred field that I'm looking at is with the German prisoners of war that we held here in the United States. Many people are not aware that we held 400,000 to 500,000 German POWs during World War II. Part of the decision for that was because as the U.S. entered the war, we needed a place to house all the POWs that were being captured. In particular, Rommel's Court in North Africa. That was the first set of POWs to arrive. I focus primarily in Michigan, of which within ProQuest there's only two dissertations that actually list Michigan in the title. One was written by William Lowe, who focused on the labor issues, and one was published by myself 2 years ago in 2018 discussing the concept of enemy and relationships between the German POWs that were stationed here in Michigan and the actual farmers who hired them out. In particular, William Lowe's dissertation, which he called Working for 80 Cents a Day, he looked at the labor, how we paid them, how much we paid them, and in order to do that, he spent a year going through National Archive files, local newspaper articles, letters, and other information that was held within the local historical society. He found that we did pay them 80 cents a day. We did build relationships with them, but most of that 80 cents a day actually went towards food, clothing, housing, and other stipulations that we had to cover under the Geneva Convention. Now, if there was any money left over, we did allow the POWs to send that money home. So we were quite a very gracious occupying country in that regard. My dissertation, which is published in ProQuest, I did, or rather my thesis that I published in ProQuest is called They Didn't Feel Like the Enemy, which actually looks at the relationships between the POWs and the farmers. When I did that, I went through a lot of National Archive files, previous dissertations and theses. I worked with the letters that National Historical Societies had, interviewed a couple of local individuals who remembered them being in the area, and then as well got into the National Archive files. Overall, they dealt pretty well in terms of relationships. You had many POWs writing letters back as late as the 1950s to area farmers within the state, and that was quite surprising. Had they been ill-treated, had they really been segregated off as enemies, I don't think the letters would have continued, nor would have the POWs been asking Americans for food, sponsorship, and other things that they needed once they got back. While they were here, we did, as a country, overall attempt a re-education program, which is mentioned by Charles Musket II in his dissertation. In that dissertation, the essential content was to convince Germans and the prisoners of war that it was better to have democracy than the dictatorship they were currently dealing with under Adolf Hitler. And some of the evidence you could use for that is a local story where a POW soldier asked an American soldier guarding him if they were going by Chicago because, according to the Fuhrer, Chicago had been completely eradicated. I can only imagine his surprise when they ended up in Chicago, because Chicago was a transfer point, particularly to come up to Michigan, when Chicago was a bustling city at the time. Part of the re-education program was not just to show them more or less the errors of their thinking, but also to convince them of the betterment of democracy, in which case they would be able to go back to Germany once they were repatriated and then convince and help build the new government over there. How successful they were, historians could probably debate that until the end of time. So with looking at all of these sources and contents and things like that, this is a very interesting subject that I've found myself in. I hope you enjoy it. If any of you would like any additional information, please let me know. I have no problem sharing any of the sources that I found. It's quite interesting. I do enjoy it, and I hope y'all have a good day.